Greetings, weary travelers. Come, warm yourself by the fire, and let us regale you with mighty tales, tales of adventure, tales of heroism, and of course, Tales of Tamriel. I am LotusOfDoom, your host for the episode, and with me this week, we have a very special guest, Deltia from deltiasgaming.com. You were a co-host before even I was. Welcome back to the show, buddy.
What's up, man? Thanks for getting me back here. I got the hype train whistle in case we get real quick. Ready?
Love it.
Not props today.
Yeah, this has been highly requested. Hello to people joining in chat live. Showtime for anybody who usually is here for the live show. The recorded version will probably seem the same to you. I had to do a bit of a different time than usual, but this is a pretty awesome episodes, kind of honestly for me specifically, which we'll get into, as you were one of the original reasons that I was able to clear some of the stuff when I was first getting started in ESO. So this is a little strange to me, not gonna lie, having you on the show, and I'm used to when I started, you were what I listened to, not the other way around.
That the tables have turned, my friend.
Yeah. So, anyways, we can start. We'll just do some simple housekeeping. Ark is currently recording D&D over with Ophelia on what do you call it? Their Sunday session. Hopefully he'll be able to actually join, because people have long wanted Ark to join back up. Scheduling has been rough with everything, but hopefully he can join us in a little bit. But in the meantime, we'll just kind of jump into everything, because we have a decent amount to cover. And even though the show doesn't have a hard time limit, it's always best to, kind of get into stuff. What do you call it? The big thing that we have this week that is worth mentioning before we kick off all the ESO goodness is the behind the scenes update. Is I've tried to respond to as many of you as possible about the weird YouTube audio desyncing thing that we've had, where the podcast doesn't quite sync up. So like we've been behind on a couple episodes on YouTube. I know that's not the same amount of people who watch that as they do on Twitch or on audio is the main thing. We are trying to get that fixed for you. We haven't forgotten about you on YouTube. We'll figure out what's the matter. So if that's your preferred platform, we are going to get it figured out hopefully sooner rather than later, and be able to upload the last couple of episodes for you and have the audio thing get corrected, because that's super weird. But that's pretty much it for the behind the scenes stuff. As for game news, it has been a pretty busy week. You've had Deadlands, as you play on PC. You've had Deadlands for a couple weeks now. What have you been thinking? Because I just got it on console, as that's my main, and PC's kind of like my. If people want me to just run with them, I will. But I haven't messed with it too much until this week. So.
Okay, so what I think about Deadlands, and maybe I should do a video about this.
Ding.
So Deadlands to me has been a huge improvement over the last patch. The last patch was very rough in terms of my enjoyment of the game. It was one of the biggest lows. Biggest lows, is that a thing to say?
Well, yeah, it's fine. Lowest low. I don't know what you say with
lowest
that.
Lows. There you go. Yeah. English is not my first language, but so it's was really bad. New World hit, PvP took a hit, Dark Convergence was everywhere, and I do a lot of the PvE stuff, but I consider myself a PvPer.
Right.
And a vast majority of the population left. Well, I got on the PTS and I tested the armory and I tested the curation system and all the quality of life things, and I'm like, man, I can't force myself to log in and grind gear when it's going to be monumentally better when Deadlands launches.
For sure.
Same thing with the armory. As a content creator, I'm playing literally 40 builds that I have to update all the time. And the amount of time and effort I take to essentially swap all these gear sets to other characters and remorph skills and attributes and champion points, it's daunting. Undaunted. So that's been absolutely fantastic. Now, I actually don't do the stories. So I toured the zone when it was on the public test server, and I made a video about it just because it is beautiful and gorgeous.
Yeah, I love the new zone.
It's incredible. Their world building. I mean, world building and dungeon design. You can criticize ZeniMax Online Studios about a lot of things, but those are two things that they are absolutely nailing. And these two quality of life features, the the curation system of the smart RNG. Like, for instance, a new meta set, Kinra's Wrath, everyone wants to get a hold of it.
Sure do.
It took me 8 hours to farm it. So when I say 8 hours, you're like, gosh, that's a lot of time. Yes, that's a lot of time, but it's better than 36.
It sure is.
I can count down. Yep, I had literally have 4 more items left in the entire loot table in that dungeon. So it's like, well, I can run it. I'm just going to run it 4 more times, no problem. And that is a home run along with the armory system. And the fact that you get 2 free ones, I love it. I am all about paying for services that are convenience and that make the quality of life easier. That's one I'm willing to pay for. Because if I have a necro tank, a necro healer, a necro DPS, 1,500 crowns for me, not to have to swap all that crap, is well worth it. So
Sure.
Deadlands has definitely reinvigorated myself. We've been running trials, dungeons, just going berserk, because now we're collecting these items, and Elder Scrolls does a good job leveling of giving you that drip of progression.
Yeah.
Like Destiny 2, Borderlands, Diablo. When you're leveling, boom, I got a level, great. I got a skill, I got a morph, I got an attribute, and like you constantly get it. When you get to like endgame character like me, it's very, very few and far between. And one of the reasons you burn out and you move on from different games. So too long didn't read version of this in a rant. Is Deadlands is an absolute home run outside of the dungeons and the overland zone, which I do not do. I've had an absolute fantastic time in this DLC so far.
Nice. And now that I've got it as well. Honestly, Halo launched as well, so I pretty much am I'm in hell trying to figure out what I can play because I have limited game time. But
yeah.
Recently, actually, as much as I've wanted to play Halo, kind of to second what you just said, ESO has kind of been winning. I'll play a couple rounds of Halo, and I'm like, all right, I want to go back. Like, I got to go back into ESO.
I got to get.
So I've been getting my fix, and like, I haven't done too much with the story because I like doing the zone clear, everything like that type of deal, and I love the new zone, kind of to second what you said. We're obviously not going to be spoiling any story stuff or anything like that, but I mean, just so you don't have to worry too much about that. But if you don't even want to know what the zones look like, maybe hold off, I would suppose. But on the flip side, with the new zone, one of the things that I really, really like, I love the variety in the Deadlands, just because the Deadlands themselves, we all remember the Deadlands from Oblivion. It's like, okay, here's your generic hellscape type of thing. And they definitely still have that, but they leaned in with this portion of the Deadlands to different ways of destruction. It's not just all fire and brimstone. Some of the regions, it's like, oh, here's crazy winds, and here's like a lightning zone area. And Fargrave, the home base, so to speak, where you plant out to start it and kick off the DLC, I love that zone just because the thing that it reminds me of the most is the picture, like the concept art when you load into the Maelstrom Arena. This always makes me think of that city that you can see outside the arena. It pretty much is just that. Like, so it's this weird thing where I'm like, oh, this is like, yeah, it's got the Oblivion vibe thing going, but it's also got this callback to the amount of time you spend in Maelstrom. And it's just like, oh, it's this weird like pocket thing of Oblivion that they never went super into. And it feels like you're back there again, which is really cool. I like it a lot. And then, the new systems, the armory is incredible, especially for console, because we don't have the wardrobe add-on. And yeah, we can't use, there's a lot of debate that we've talked about on the show, whether or not it should be allowed in the middle of timed content or score content. You can't use it in PvP, and you can't use it mid-trial. I don't know. I know I'm sort of in the minority that I don't care, but that's also, I am aware because I'm a little lazy and just don't want to be made to flip my gear as a tank. I know we can do it without it, but I get it. I totally understand that aspect. But since I, polar opposite of you, where you run like 40 builds, I run 2. I have my tank that I do everything on for achievements, and I run a DPS that I use to troll Ark because it's actually just, for everybody who doesn't know, it's called Arkaniir. I made it look like Arkaniir, and it's an Eldmiri Dominion, and he only uses Gwar, so it's pretty much everything he hates.
What tank do you have? What class?
I'm a DK.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're okay then.
Yeah. No. My main one, I was going to say, my main one that I'm an achievement farmer on and I do literally everything on, that's my DK. So I flex it around as need be.
Okay.
And that's why I personally love the armory. I use them for PvP. So I built myself a PvP setup. Okay, that's one build. I've got my dungeon tanking set up. That's one set. I've got my main tanking trial set up. That's one set. I've got my off tanking trial set up. That's one set. I've got my arena one, which is like, okay, well, it's sort of a DPS, but it's structured for solo player content only. I use it for Vatashram and I use it for Maelstrom. I've got that one saved. It's like, that saves me, other than a lot of money from constantly respeccing, oh my God, it saves me so much time.
Oh, huge.
It's
huge.
unbelievable. Massive. It is unbelievable how much time that saves me. So, like, it's not a big project now when somebody's like, oh, do you want to come run a BG? And I'm like, I do, but I don't want to spend 9.5 minutes re-gearing my character because I don't have a character specifically.
And re-morphing, re-attribute,
It's such a... past tense was such a project. Now it's just click, click, done. Like, I love it. And as a massive proponent of hating RNG, the curated drops are absolutely amazing. I've already completed several sets that I could not get for the life of me. The piece that I needed to drop, they're done. One of the running jokes was, because Worm is a great set. Worm's Raiment, it's a super easy set to get. It just comes out of Vault of Madness. It's base game stuff. I could not get a one-handed weapon to save my life. Everybody has trouble with the ice staff and stuff. Nope. Literally everything had 0 one-handed weapons. Soon as it dropped, I immediately got it. I was like, oh my God, this is so amazing.
Yep. The weapons are what takes forever. And people think that they're getting duplicates, and you are, because the very first few dungeons are basically body pieces only. The boss's loot tables don't have weapons in them.
Right.
So it's really, what happens is now, I was like, oh, this isn't working as intended. And once I understood it more was, you basically get redundant body pieces. Then you fill up your jewelry pieces, and then you're lastly working on your weapons over the entire loot table. So
yes.
Yeah.
And the other thing, which I won't say exactly the fine details on how people are selling these runs. However, just if you want to help your friends, I'll say it from this perspective. One thing that is very cool related to that is if you are lucky enough to get, say, the one that everybody's running for forever, Medusa. It's less important now, but when you have the Medusa, nobody could get the fire stick to save their life. It wasn't happening. So if you end up with that being like one of the last couple items you have, and you run with a group of people, give it to one of the other people because it will still stay in your loot pool as incredibly high. Now, some people are selling these, which is whatever. You spend your money how you want. It's not my problem. But we have helped each other in my Trials Guild where people have grouped together and it's like, I only have daggers left for Kinra. And everybody's like, oh my God, yes. So we all run with that person. Right. They give their drops to people. You get the one you need. And they're like, well, I didn't collect my own item. So the next time I run this, I'm going to get another thing because I gave you mine. Which is a really, it sounds weird, but it's almost like, it's like a community building thing if you're actually willing to do that with each other, which is real handy if you have a consistent team you run with. You can control your RNG in a really good way of all of you getting what you need. And then, again, once you fill the sticker book, it just goes back to totally random, and then it's, whatever at that point.
Yeah, you fill it out to a certain point. Don't bind the weapons. Trade it with your friend, and then just bind what you don't need. So Togben's Warband with Frostvault, cameras, all these trial sets, you can kind of cheese it. But it goes back to the point of ESO has been doing a good job of making the content that you have to kind of grind through quicker. Meaning, as a PvPer primarily, I typically don't want to spend majority of my time farming gear in order to PvP. Yep. ESO is unique in the fact that they do not want to go currency system. Yes, you have. And I'm glad they don't.
Okay,
that's pretty much every other game. But they really don't want to do that. And for whatever reason, fine. This makes it much, much easier. So you get the items in order to play at a high level, and then it becomes about mastery and improving at that point. And it's a lot quicker path versus, I remember 2016, Scathing Mage was best in slot for Magic Nightblade. Me and another buddy probably spent 150 hours in that Imperial City prison dueling it to get Scathing Mage Divine 5-piece.
Whoa.
I mean, a belt of just Scathing Mage Divine was like, we just run it over and over looking for one piece.
Yep.
One trait in the entire loot table. Now, fast forward to where we are now, I could bring a group of people in there. We could get it in a run. If we have enough transmutes. So it's then, okay, I got that piece. Now I can go do Maw of Lorcash, the trial I want to get the skin. It just cuts that farming grind just to nothing.
Absolutely. And that's the thing I like. It's knowing that there's the hard cap on farming required. You know it's not totally RNG, which is kind of a weird thing to say, that it's like, it's random, but it's not totally random. Like, it's controlled randomness, which I can deal with because that does add longevity as you fill things up. Like, that's totally fine. But knowing that there's guaranteed a light at the end of the tunnel, you can't just never get this. Like, you will get it. It just makes it, okay, you're working towards something. Maybe you'll get lucky and get it early, but you're working toward it. You know that there's a guarantee you're eventually going to get it, which really kind of around the time you had originally taken a little break it seemed like that's when they started to shift toward this whole like farming
transmutes.
Yeah, that's when the transmutation stations came in. So it's like that alone. It's like, okay, well now I just got to get it, period. Good enough. But then it's like, okay, well then well, it was the retrading, and so then there was...
It was gear trading first, which was huge.
That's
like,
right.
You could trade with your friends.
I forgot you couldn't even trade originally. Oh, my God.
Yeah, so someone would get that Scathing Mage belt, and they already had, like, sorry.
Oh,
dude.
sorry. I mean, I'll just link it in chat. You can not have it.
Flex. There you go.
Right. Oh, wow. All right. Yikes. I forgot about that. So, yeah, to your point, that was even a thing. They added trading. Then you could retrade. Then you could reconstruct, and it was like, oh, wow, okay, now this is getting real cool because then it saves you inventory space. Your inventory's not on fire holding 90 different versions of the same thing. And then now it's curated. It's like they keep making it a little better, a little better, a little bit. So it's like now we're at a point where personally, I don't really know where the next a little better would be from where we are, because everything kind of has its set endpoint. And I do understand them not wanting to just give you the thing the first time you run it every time. That's not good either.
Fun.
Yeah,
it's like opening Christmas presents on December 15th or something. It's no fun.
Correct. That's going to almost give people burnout in I've already done everything. There's nothing to repeat for. I don't want to help people because I already did mine. Like so where they're at right now is just enough RNG to give replayability, but not I replay this until I can't take it anymore type of thing.
Now, can I hammer home what they need to do?
Yes, please.
You need to 1000% stop giving just PvEers incentive to do content to get transmutes.
Yes.
I'm tired of it.
Yes.
I should be able to play Battlegrounds for 8 hours until my frickin' fingers bleed and get just as many transmutes as someone that does a normal Fungal Grotto 1.
Yes.
Transmutes are the end game currency. That's what you're playing for.
Yes. I totally agree with, because I mean, we've gone over it on this show before. As a PvPer, I know you feel this deep. You had actually mentioned right out the gate that there's some interesting bits with the Dark Convergence, which I don't want to talk about Dark Convergence anymore. It's just
I used it and I loved it.
So do I, but everybody uses it.
Everybody uses
That's
it. But
the problem.
When 8 people dogpile me, I was the one time I could kill 8 people like that. But it became a way big problem. Anyways.
Yeah, but to your point, so I'm mainly PvE, but people know, like, I play a lot of PvE. I just always say I'm a PvE. It's like I'm about 1 million points off of my 5th star. Like, I've played plenty of PvP. I actually really, really like PvP. But it's just not my main thing. I'm aware how much it is a back burner idea. And it's like, yes, the PvP community is definitely smaller, but they're not going to not keep shrinking when they just keep getting overlooked either. So there's just not the same incentive there for a lot of stuff. It's like, yeah, the Transmute Crystal mega drop, if you're a tier 1 in Cyrodiil, one, you don't even need to PvP to get that. You can PV door and repair enough crap, and it's like, okay, well, I'm a tier 1, and then the campaign ended, so here's my 50 transmutes, and I did it on 10 characters. That doesn't even incentivize you to do PvP. And
no, you just go PV door and repair, plus it takes 1 month to get that.
So exactly.
You capitalize on that, and then what do? I do a random BG, and I get 1 transmute.
Right. Yeah, cool.
Oh, and I get rewards of the worthy for junk battleground sets.
Right.
Now, and the other idea, like doing the normal, I just farm those normals.
Yeah, it's literally faster, easier, and more efficient. Like there's
I have a second account. Pull it up on my laptop. Level 10. We jump in there, kick the thing from the group, run it. Fungal Grotto 1, 2 minutes, 10 transmutes. Yeah. Reform, relog, kick that poor level 10 out, and just keep on rolling it.
Exactly. It's like there's not really. They've been shifting stuff around, and I'm never going to blame people for trying different things, but there's a lot shifting, and I mean it's sort of an issue with the meta overall, where each patch it is almost like a gutting overhaul of skills, and okay, now this set, it's like that is a bit exhausting. I wish they wouldn't quite go so ham every patch, because that is. It's getting rough.
No, you have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I don't even make videos on how to do builds. Like, I can't imagine, because, like, one patch later, and it's like, okay, well, that's...
You basically get 45 days, because what happens is the patch comes out, mid-patch cycle is the PTS, and you're like, oh, so this is completely gutted. This is going to be the new thing. This is going to be the new mythic. Now I know that, so what do I do? And then I just hold off on builds for another 45 days. I will give them credit, though. The hybridization changes and some of the champion point changes, and they're good for the most part.
Yeah.
But every 3 months this year has been absolutely just gutted all your builds.
Yep.
All your goals. Oh, Medusas, rip. Champion points, completely changed.
Yep.
It's just... skills are hybridized and gears hybridized, and it's like usually MMOs once a year. You're like, okay, I'm prepared for it.
Sure.
You know, I'm every 6 months, great. Then I know they're trying to make progress. I'm going to defend them on it. But as a player, a lot of people, my friends, have left, and it's just like I can't keep up every 45 days finding out what's the new meta flavor of the month thing, and it's just too much.
And a lot of it, to that point, isn't. Like, okay, metas, you're going for min-max stuff, and it's like, that's fine, and you don't need to necessarily be quite min-maxed to, well, you definitely don't to clear stuff, but even for trifecta stuff, if you're really going for trifectas, perfectas, you don't necessarily need to be the most bleeding edge to get it with enough practice, but I mean, it definitely helps. Like, there's no reason not to, unless you don't want to, and it's usually like, okay, if you're doing weird challenges, that's fine, so there's no real reason to not want to optimize to make your life easier to try to do something that's difficult. And like you said, these changes, they're not, oh, well, if I did this and change it to this, it's a 1% difference. Well, okay, that's really cutting it close. These are like, okay, well, I need to totally do this, and this different, because otherwise I'm taking like a 15% decrease in my effectiveness. And like, from personal experience, we've been, I'll get more to it for Tales later, but we've been hitting 35 of 36 on our Immortal Redeemer in VAS 2. We have pulled 6 1 deaths instead of our Perfecta in there, and our big thing was like, we have to get this done before the patch drops, because we're gonna have to redo it. Like, we're gonna need to relearn this. And we had like this weird hard push where we're like, we got to do this, and we kept getting so close. And then the patch hit, and we ended with another 35 of 36, and we're like, we didn't get it. We need to basically, we're like, how much are we going to need to go back to the drawing board on this? Luckily, we're way under time by a mile. You got 15 minutes to do the time trial. We were doing it in 6.5 to 7. So it was like, okay, as long as we're not nuked, we theoretically should still be at least fine. We just got to clean up. We just got to get that perfect run where nobody dies. And I really liked the fact that our trial lead was like, we've never had something so close that what if we just don't do anything? Like, let's just run it. We're not going to change anything. What does the game feel like if we go back in and we do nothing different than we did pre-patch and see how it feels? And we beat it. We got our clear. We died, nice. But it was like, but we went from conservatively a 7-minute run. We were at 9.5 minutes.
Oh, it changed that much.
It actually added a decent amount of time to us because the thing was our crits needed to be shifted so much. We weren't adjusting.
You're probably like 150% crit modifier.
Because everybody was optimized for the last patch. So we were like, ooh. So then we shifted it, obviously, because we're like, well, we're not going to. We shifted it. We got right back down to 7.5. Like, and we've still, we're still learning and trying to optimize for the new patch. But it's a good example for the first time of, it was literally the day before patch, the day after patch. How much does something that we have been practicing change? And it was a lot. Like, is it game breaking? No. Is it notable? Yeah, it really is. So you can't just totally brush it off. Like, it's like, oh, you're just being overly endgamey. It's like, well, no, you're going to feel it. Like, because you're throwing away all that crit and stuff like that. So it's like when we adjusted, we went back, but it's like, that's to your point. You gotta adjust every patch. That gets tiring. Like, it does.
And I don't mean to be complaining about it, but definitely me coming back to the game, trying to relearn everything. It feels like I'm about 7-8 months in now.
Yep.
I mean, it took me a good just 6 months to these skills had drastically changed.
Right.
The passives were just radically different. One morph that I thought was complete garbage everyone's using. I'm like, why are you using that stupid skill? What,
right.
Blood altar?
Oh my god, yeah, blood altar was worthless for so long.
Tanks are using balance. Why that's the stupidest thing to use. Why are you using balance? You're an idiot. Oh, I'm the idiot. And now every patch is and I get it. They're trying to make it hybridized, and I think it is good. And this patch, the Kinross, you actually do have options. I thought it was going to be completely different, and everyone's going to have to wear a Kinross. Well, the truth is, if you can't maintain those light attacks and do it properly and really fast bar swaps, you're not going to be good at that. Do not use Kinross. And in fact, there's actually a plethora of really good options that do very well. Now you don't have to use mythics. I really enjoy that. And now that monster helms are back, you don't have to be reliant on mythics. So while I'm complaining a little bit, this change, what I thought was going to be terrible, has actually been really fantastic because it opens up so many doors and not pigeonholed. I thought we were all going to be pigeonholed. Everyone's going to be running Reliquins and Bosses, Stam or Magicka, whatever. Some people are. But
oh, sure. It's not doable, but it's not, you get only one choice. And that's, to that point, like, I get it. Like, and they're trying to get it into essentially this perfect place, which, I don't think that ever really happens in balance.
It's an MMO.
Games. Yeah, exactly. Good luck with that. But the direction they're going totally makes sense. The problem is, it's just when you're dealing with the flux from change to change, patch to patch, change to change, it's daunting because you can only practice something to get good at it so long before it's now not the thing you're even trying to do. So it's this weird overarching, almost like a time trial on just like, you have this much time to get stuff done before the next patch, and then you're going to relearn it. And it's like, do a lot of, newer players care that much? No, not until you're at like the end game thing. But at the same time, it can get overwhelming. And that's, honestly, that's like a good way to go into like perfect situation, which is why I'm glad you're here for this, is you were gone for a while and now you're back. You had to readjust to this. You were almost like a pseudo new player again because you were a returning player. It's the same basic idea. You might have known how it used to work, which I guess almost could work against you sometimes, thinking you knew how something worked, and then it doesn't work like that anymore, as opposed to a total blank slate and you're learning it for the first time outright. But what was that like? How would you suggest to people who are jumping back in? Because this is based on some questions we had sent into the show. People were wondering, like, how do you get used to this? And I feel bad because it's been so long since I was a new player. I honestly have absolutely no idea what it's like to be a new player.
It's terrible.
Yeah, outside of just playing on PC and I'm low level.
It's terrible because the ZeniMax Online Studios in Bethesda, they're sticking to their core roots. And for better or for worse, it's not holding new players' hands and saying, do X, then Y, then Z to accomplish said goal. That's kind of where content creators come in.
Right.
Their thing is open world legitimately. You start, intro quest, figure it out, brother.
Yes.
Okay, well, coming back to the game, it's almost exactly what I experienced in Destiny 2. I have no idea what to prioritize. There's no pop-up, there's no nothing. So for instance, take the dungeon finder. Okay. Yep. I'm a brand new player. I got to 50, roger that. I got 300 CP. I'm going to queue up for a dungeon. Lair of Marsalok? That looks like a cool name. It's just in the list. Let's click it. You're going to get deleted doing Lair of Marsalok. There's no bracket. And that's the problem with ESO. Star Wars The Old Republic had gear rating and stuff like this to kind of give you an idea of, hey, you should be at this level probably before you can do this. And it would have it bracketed. So beginner dungeons, veteran dungeons, Spindle Clutch 1, Fungal Grotto 2. Why not put that in a bracket with rewards and incentives to do that? Bracket number 2, a little bit harder. Bracket number 3, Lair of Marsalok, Fang's Lair, Dread Cellar. So when you go and do these dungeons, there's a clear incentive and direction for you to know this is going to be really hard. If you don't have 800 champion points, gold gear, and your rotation down, you're not getting Lair of Marsalok hard mode down unless someone carries you.
Right. Yeah. It's either a hard carrier or you have a bizarre degree of luck where, like, just with Marsalok or something like that, it would just be like, I mean, theoretically, if you're lucky enough, you could never get the hard mode seed mechanic and not understand why anybody's doing it. But again, you won't learn anything because you never got the mechanic. If you skate by like that, people would then assume you know it, and you don't because you might just have been lucky. Like,
it was really rough coming back. And I mean, like I said, I was using weird skills, but I had to get back to the basics. And I started a new character, and I started over on PCEU, which was very helpful. So like one day a week, I would play over there and start characters and kind of relax and read the passives, which is really how your character becomes powerful. Is not the active skills; those are locked. The passives are not. So I had to reread those and kind of fine tune my old builds. And some of the stuff was off meta, some of the stuff was on. But the direction that you have as a new player, and I've made some videos recently like this, is prioritize this gear set, then do these dungeons, and then the Endgame Transmute system is really the grind that you're going to have to do daily. Why is there a benefit to having ads? It's to get more transmutes. It's to get more random dungeon finders. But Elder Scrolls Online errs in the sake of immersion. That's their brand. That's their model, and they do a very good job on that. But they sacrifice guidance in tutorials and like, what do I actually do to improve my character? They have so many gear sets. They've been stuck in the gear set hamster wheel. Well, they continue to try to one up the last gear set, right? Whether it's PvE, PvP, or Mythics. The problem with that is, okay, you have so many. It's like Magic the Gathering. If you're going to build a deck in Magic the Gathering and you have over 3,000 cards to choose from, someone out there is going to find a busted combination of cards.
Right.
That's why it's seasonal. That's what I've always said with Elder Scrolls Online. Do it seasonally, like every other mega game does. You can use Salene's Monster Helm this patch, Magma Incarnate this patch, this gear set this patch, this gear, instead of having 500.
Right. Is every set for the past 7 years with these. Oh, what a surprise. You found some broken combo if you do this and this.
You found some broken combo. Someone will screw around long enough, and every single patch you find some goofy proc set that was in some random dungeon, and you're in PvP one-shotting people. And you're like, what? Or I'm running Iron's Blood, and you just can't kill me.
You're just invincible.
You find these goofy one-off things, and for whatever reason, the seasonal thing they do not want to do, and that's something they need to do, I think, is seasonal, like Destiny 2. And a reason I bring this up is it kind of follows a model close to an MMO, but seasonally, if you jump back in, you don't feel screwed that you're missing all these things previously, because every 3-month chunk, it's going to reset with new incentives for you to come back, right? New shinies to get currency, to get gear, to get things in the crown store, their cash shop, for the lack of a better word. So it gives you this cyclical 3-month cycle of, okay, I maybe missed that one. I was busy at school, at my job, but I'm getting back on this 3 months. And the seasonality of Elder Scrolls Online, they have a lot of events, but you jump back in. And if I wasn't creating content and committed to that, I would have been like, I'm just going to start over with another game. Yeah. It's too hard to catch up.
And I can understand that. One of the things that I guess is like a good implementation that they've got going now, which I do really like, as we had mentioned with the collections, the sticker books that you can reconstruct. One thing, now granted, if you're just starting out, the amount of sets in this game, when you look at the collections, is like, oh dear God, what is this? Because there's literally hundreds. Just craftables alone, there's hundreds of stations.
Oh yeah.
But then you've got the collectibles that you can get. One of the things that is at least nice, not cheap, because, you've got to reconstruct, but the longer you play now, one really good thing about the combo of limiting the RNG and not needing to make sure everything's in the bank, the longer you play, you will passively now fill these sticker books and these collections tabs. So going forward, if you do get into Endgame where this stuff is really kind of more important than just casually doing overworld, enjoying the story, this is not really the same application there. You can get by with way much less. But this is for, if you're trying to tackle the harder stuff, or you want to be good in PvP. Like, I mean, other people are going to be trying to min-max on you. If you don't on them, you better be real skilled to be able to counteract that. Yep. But over time, at least, if things come back into meta, at least now we have access to them. Whereas before, I was terrified to ever break anything down because it was like,
Troll King.
Oh my God.
Troll King, Earthgore, all these old sets that used to be just God mode sets.
Yeah, and it's like, I was going to say, the amount of changes Earthgore has gotten, and it's still to the point of being somewhat usable. Because
it's still usable in PvE. Like when you're trying to kill hard stuff, it's great.
I love it. That's my go-to monster set because I've been off-tanking for our Vet Asylum runs, and that's just it. It's like if I get dumb and sloppy and accidentally step in the kite electricity, that drops on me, and I'm like, okay, cool, I guess I'm all set. Like, I'm still good. It's not going to help. But when you think of what Earthgore did originally, it's like it gave you 30,000 points and purged 3 people of 3 status effects. It was the most ridiculous set imaginable.
Negated him.
Yeah, and that's just it. That was crazy. And now it's down, it's gone through a million iterations, but it's like that's still like around, but other things have come in and out of flavor and stuff like that. It's nice to at least know that they're there for you, but that's only good as you've collected them. Seeing that wall of these are all your options, I would imagine is a lot when you first see that and you're trying to learn all these systems and everything like that.
Yeah, and it's good for content creators because I get to make stuff for it, but it feels like, man, even as a content creator who had my head wrapped around the game, I thought, I was like, dude, I'm
It's a lot. It's a lot to learn.
When I delve back into it, I will say this, that they've done a much better job of managing to make Overland, Craftable, Dungeon, Trials, all relevant.
Yes.
Mother Sorrow, right. I could go and buy that for a nothing burger and have relevant endgame PvE DPS. Fantastic.
Amazing.
Briarheart.
Yep.
I mean, yes, this is not 1%er Godslayer gear.
Sure.
Beyond that, every single person in the game could essentially use one of those 2 sets, buy it for 50,000 gold, and run it for eternity.
Yep.
So they have done a great job. And even today, Medusas, yes, it's not as good as Kenras, Togvins, Bahastes, and so on, but it's pretty dang close.
And especially if you build into it. Like, that's the other thing, is between CP and passives and your race and your class. When you actually mesh all this together, you can not be meta, but still be totally competent. Like, and that's just it. The real time when it starts getting to the point of people being like, oh, that's useless, don't use that, is things it's like, okay, well, unless you're talking to me about a Godslayer run or a Planesbreaker or something, it's like, okay, you don't need to be the most bleeding edge person imaginable to do, oh, I did a hard mode of something. You know what I mean? It's like, that's not what we're referring to when it's just like everyone. But you want to give yourself as many advantages as possible if you try to do difficult content. And PvP, it's not a set difficulty bar of an AI that's aiming to stop you. It's another person who wants to destroy you, and they're going to do whatever they can to do so. So it's a little more in flux because it's a battle of, for lesser term, the battle of minds. Who's coming up with something that works better against the other person? Battle of sweats is probably better, because I was going to say, myself included, when I'm in PvP, battle of minds is not something I bring to zone chat.
You're all sweaty. Let's go.
Yeah. So that's definitely the case. That's interesting though to note that it is. So the game has gotten
way better. Oh, the game has gotten night and day. Like, I give that story about Mav Lorcaj. I got so frustrated as a content creator because, like, I can't farm. Like, I can't play the game for 40 hours just to get gear every 3 months.
Right.
Like, it legitimately took just because there'd be a new trial or new dungeon. I would have to get all the loot tables filled out on that. Best in slot. I mean, that's just with gear trading, that was it.
Yeah.
That's all I'm like, I just can't do this. It's just too much. You play way, way, way too much. So it's gotten a lot better though. But there's no direction for you. There's no pop-up interface. It's just way too on the other end of the spectrum, which is, figure it out. And that's why I tell people when they come back to Elder Scrolls Online, do not do what I did. Do not jump on your endgame character you used before. Start a new one.
Yeah.
And just enjoy the game all over again by reintegrating yourself, doing the normal dungeons as you level up, doing the main story, which is still to this day fantastic. And then you meet people who are like-minded and you kind of learn, they're using two-hander for PvE DPS. I wonder why now. And then you kind of learn these things as you go. And that's what was really helpful for me, is jumping on PCU and going, you know what? I'm going to start all over again. Yep. Y'all can coach me up.
And that is a good point, because like, a lot of times too, if you have people you're consistently playing with for groups, there's kind of also this difference between mimicking the meta and understanding it, which is something that a lot of people don't do. And it takes a lot more work to understand why you're doing certain things, but it will help. The perfect example is, because I've run dungeons with people, and when I've posted like a VOD of it's doing it to different groups or whatever, because we don't have, combat metrics on console, you got you save your video clip and you show people, and that's how they know what you did. It's not like, here's my printout of like, oh, I had this uptime and stuff like that. And there have been times when people are like, well, why are you using that? And I'm like, well, because this person doesn't have this buff, so I'm doing this to provide that because they're doing something different. Okay, that wasn't the meta in that case, but we're getting the same result because this person is providing something else. And it's like, it's where the best example I always had, which is not really meta anymore, was back to, the Mav Lorcaj back in the day when tanks had Alkosh.
Alkosh?
Yes.
Yep.
And the thing was, when people were like, oh, so-and-so's not wearing Alkosh. And I'm like, yeah, I've seen their like, I was like, they're not keeping an Alkosh uptime. We don't need them in Alkosh. Like, that's not helping. Like, the uptime is crap. So, like, we should work around this, like, until they get better at it. Because if you weren't popping those synergies to get that...
What's the point of the set? You might as well set a random set that just gives a buff at all times.
Correct. And that was, like, a big problem, was a lot of groups that I would run with, people would say, well, wear this. And I'm like... One group, this was a long time ago, and not trying to call anybody out, I was just in a group where I was like, I don't know how to react to this, because people were like, well, wear Alkosh. I was like, there's no point in me wearing Alkosh. And people were like, well, of course there is. You're the tank. You have to wear Alkosh. I was like, none of you are using anything I can synergize. I cannot use Alkosh. There's no point, because it was before the orb meta or any of that stuff. And I'm like,
extend ritual and
right. I was like, the only thing I get is the healer occasionally will throw me a shard, which is not a good uptime for this thing. Like, one shard.
Seconds.
Yeah. It's so, and people didn't understand why I was saying, like, I can use something else for you guys. Like, it's fine if you don't have synergy-based stuff. Now a lot more things are synergizable and stuff like that. But it was just at the time, I remember, like, when I was learning how Alkosh worked, I'm like, oh, okay, I need to be constantly popping this for this to matter. Otherwise, nothing's getting this debuff. Like,
well, and I always find the biggest experts in quote-unquote know-it-alls are the ones that don't actually complete the content. So when I'm streaming live, a lot of people will chime in a very positive, informative way and not shove it down my face. They'll say, Deltia, you might want to think about this because you're running something less optimal. And then they'll explain why to me.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, super helpful. Thanks. An example was I didn't have a heal on my Magden build I'm going to put out. And a guy in the chat was like, hey, you can just spam it because of the passive heals you when animal companion ability goes away. I'm like, oh, crap, you're right. That's a 2,000 heal. I don't even need. Right. Thank you for doing that. The other people will jump in the chat and say, you have to use Kinross. And I'll go, well, actually, I have 3 ground effect AoEs. The global cooldown is 1 second, plus a bar swap, plus light attack weaving. I'm not actually going to be able to keep up 5 light attacks within 5 seconds going my back bar. So it's much better to use Medusas because I'll always get crit that way. Oh, no, you got to use Kinross. Yeah, and like, I'll see these people in the dungeons or trials, and I'm like, your Kinross uptime is 10%.
Yes, exactly. And
you're not on a parse dummy.
Right.
You're in content.
And that's another thing. The difference between parsing on a dummy and between, like, oh, yeah, I do this much damage. That's one thing I do wish I had the information of on console, just knowing what people do in content compared to what they do on a dummy, because some people will post amazing dummy like videos and I'm like, oh my God, like that's insane. Like you just drop in 105 or whatever on your
crazy.
That's awesome. And 90% of the trial they're dead. I'm like, okay, so you're doing basically 6,000 damage. Like my tank is probably comparable to how much we're doing because you're dead so much. Like
I got a buddy, John, from Wales. Shout out to John. Love him to death. He is not the sweaty parse lord, but this man will not die. Dreadseller hard mode. I'll be dead as a tank before his little birdie Sork jumping around is dead. We can clear so much content on the PTS before anyone else can, because I know he is not dead. Same with my friend Sarsis. He's a Stamplar. Melee Stamplar and hard dread mode hard seller in the PTS. We got it down. Nice. He does not die. Does he do 110k parses? Nope. Right. He does not. He is an animal. He does not die.
Yes. And that's the big thing. Like, I've mentioned my Perfecta team that I run with for 4-player content. And it's been the 4 of us for a long time. We've had a couple lineup shifts because of life and everything like that. But the group we've had now has been running for a while. And I always joke that it's like we have, our Sork bill is off the rails damage. Like nuts damage. And then our other DPS is a Necromancer, Neo, and Neo barely even ever shows his dummy because he's just like, he's like, they're fine, they're whatever. The difference is whatever Neo does on a dummy is what he's doing in combat. And Neo doesn't like to die. Same situation where it's like, okay, we've got 2 very good combined DPSs. Are they setting like, is one of them like, oh, look, mine's 110. It's like, well, no, it's not. But at the same time, we never pause because one of them is dead. So it's just perpetual damage all the time. Well, so it's like, it looks more impressive. And it's like, oh, you guys must have like some of the best DPS on server. It's like, well, they're good, but they're like very, very hard hitting. But it's like when they're up all the time, they're always doing that DPS. It's the difference between like, we're not spending time rezzing people or all of this stuff. It's and functional so like DPS.
Exactly. It's like functional training and physical. Like I'd watch, so someone was like, how much do you parse? I went and did like 70,000. Like, my God, I must suck. So when I went into the parse, I just started with whatever ability I had on my bar. Yep. I have a shield on. This is what I actually use in the game. And so I watched some of these parse videos and they have like daggers on a magic build. They're not moving using barb trap, 2 stationary sets, kilt, and they start with 10 stacks kilt. Get out of combat. Put a bunch of abilities on your bar, use different food. And I'm like, gang, That is impressive. You are very good at bar swapping and doing rotations and all those things. But that's if that's what parsing is, that's not actually what you take into Dreadseller hard mode.
Yeah.
You will be dead within 5 seconds of that final boss.
On top of that, the odds that you're not losing your Kinross stacks from getting hit from the fire everywhere, it's like, even if it's not killing you, you're not going to have that stuff up. There's so much crap flying around. You're going to get touched. Your stacks are going to drop off. You're just simply not.
Bar swap.
Right. You have it's not functional DPS. That by no means doesn't mean you aren't a beast at doing a rotation. It's just that doesn't always apply unless it's like, oh yeah, this boss is a stack and burn. Well, okay, you're going to be way superior to stack and burn, but it's like, there aren't a lot of those anymore. Finn has put a swift end to the stack and burns on most stuff in this game.
Which I love it. It's not AA and Hellraw anymore. And
sure isn't.
My build videos, I showed them. So I'm like, this is Veteran Black Rose Prison. Me beating it with my Magic Warden.
Yep.
It actually works. This is not me hypothetically telling you. This is what it looks like. Crap beating the crap out of me. And me still being able to do damage.
Right.
And no offense to the parsing is very good to get your rotation down.
It is.
I'm no good at it. But when I go in there, I'm like, I'm 70,000 because I'm not doing the,
you're not learning the way to make your numbers look big.
Or using charge trait now with a fire and flame and flame enchant. Right. There's all sort. It's always its own mini game. It's almost like the cheesy proc PvP set.
Yeah,
it's its own mini game.
Right. So yeah, it's
so which I know we're beating the crap out of this one.
I was gonna say, I suppose we can move on, but everybody gets the point. It's just it is. It's just the difference between doing stuff in content compared to being able to flex. They're two different skill sets. That's all it is. It's just
we beat that one. We beat that horse.
Yeah, it's you all get it. But what do you call it? So next thing, since I was going to say it's live now, and I figure we might as well mention it because we've been talking about all the dungeon goodness and everything like that and trials and stuff. The Undaunted event is taking place in ESO right now. I've heard a couple people have had some weirdnesses about it. I don't know. How's it working on PC? Because I was pleasantly surprised, not to be pessimistic, but this event has literally never gone off without blowing up the Dungeon Finder. And at least on the PlayStation side of things, I've had zero issues with it. It actually just straight up has worked, which has been lovely. I've been a big fan. Is that the same on PC, or am I just like in this weird loophole where it just happens to be working for me? Or
no, it's working good. So I played on stream a couple days, and we just did a bunch of dungeons with viewers and did some randoms, and then we did some trials and stuff. And basically, everyone was queuing for the ones where you get the cool monster helms. Or
yeah. Those you're gonna random into those like all the time too, because that's the majority of the player base is floating around in those. So it's real easy to fill a roster.
But a lot of people have come back to the game, and I've seen countless people saying, "I didn't know you're back. I didn't know you're back. I didn't know." A long time 5-year ago players have been attracted to this patch, specifically these events. And ESO now has got a really good cycle of constant events.
They do.
That it's something cool to collect, or it's a double XP event. It took them a very long amount of years to get to like where Star Wars: The Republic was, where it felt like every month something BA was happening.
Yep.
And now they have that where I'm telling you, it's great because there's always an event just right around the corner. Like the double XP ones I like because I just go on PCU and just ramp up champion points.
That's how I power level on my PC so that I can run stuff with people when they want on like streamer night and stuff with everybody. It's like, I basically spike during those double XP events, and then it's like, oh, you haven't been on PC in like a month. I was like, yeah, it's weird. It's almost like there's no double XP event at the moment.
So those events were good. And the Undaunted one, man, I think it was Thursday it launched, and I was on PCU, and I pull open Cragworn, and then I jump into Stormhaven to go get the Undaunted pledges, and it was just like there were so many bodies you couldn't even move to get there. I'm like, this is great to see. And PCEU population, I don't have the metrics, no one shares that with me, but I'm telling you right now, it is lit over there. It's just Cyrodiil 24 hours a day is just smashed.
Yeah.
Must be way more people over there.
It's weird just from platform to platform, because like one of the things that I've definitely had long kind of assumed was that the majority of people are like, PC is kind of the most well-known of everything. And then it's funny because like when you, from my perspective, playing on the PlayStation or whatever, and it's like the amount of people in the Undaunted Enclave, like I've got a PS5 at this point, and during this event, everything loads in instantly. It's basically comparable to my PC as well now, last gen. I'm so sorry. My PS4 was like a jet engine trying to play ESO toward the end. Yeah. But like the amount of models in the area, even the Undaunted Enclave, I'm like, mother of God, this is a lot of people like here now. And it's like, yeah, so like that's good. And the big thing has been, every event has been easy to pop in and out of. Like there's been lots of stuff. And I'm glad that they've kind of shifted some of the stuff, because one of the longtime complaints, which I'm not the big cosmetic person or the collecting just random stuff in these games. That's not really super my thing.
Okay. Yeah,
my fashion scrolls is a big thumbs down.
Yeah, you're like in the 1% then. Everyone loves fashion scrolls.
Yeah, I know. It drives people insane that people either love my gear setup or they hate it, because it has not changed in many, many years, as I'm still in heavy glass armor with an ebony helmet, and that's it. That's what I wear.
You a Morrowind fan?
I am. Morrowind's my favorite game of all time.
Okay.
So
yep, I got you.
Yeah, and that's exactly why. But people will either be like, dude, that looks so cool, and I'm like, yeah, it's a set that's been here since the beginning, and nobody remembers because it's so old. Or people are like, what is that? That looks butt-ass ugly. And I'm like, it's my glass armor. Leave me alone. But the thing is, to your point, so many people love to collect that stuff. And one of the big things that they changed was there was kind of event burnout prior to the last couple. Yes, yeah. Prior to. And the things were, it was just event into event, event into event. And they were kind of just the same events. And the problem was the variety of what you were unlocking was basically just the same thing. So it was like, well, I don't know, we got 8 of those Indrik things or whatever. And people were like, dude, I want to kill all the Indriks at this point. Like, I don't want any more. Like, they're awful. Now it's like this year, like when you got your ticket things, it's like there's the Griffin mount thing, or quasi-griff because it can't fly. And we got the skin thing, and I don't know what, it's an emote or something. I don't know. I'm still bad at collecting this stuff. But the final one is a house. It's like there's good variety for people to do stuff. Yeah. There's other things if you're not interested in that. When you go to the event vendors, you can buy the different things, and there's like lots of options. So they've fleshed out the reason to do the events, which I think has helped quite a bit. Yep. And the events themselves aren't straight carbon copies anymore. There was that secret boss from the last event, which was really cool, that crow boss. I love that. Actually, I kind of hope they do something more with that, like do more with that stuff. I really like that, because even if you've been here since the start of the Witches Festival, that was something new to do. I liked that. That was cool. I did it quite a few times just because it was like, oh, this is totally different. I've never fought this thing. And I really like that gravestone mechanic where it's like summoning the zombies out of the graves if you don't break them and stuff like that. So it's like that type of deal I hope they keep leaning into, because it makes the events worth doing, even if you've been around here since the beginning. So,
yeah, events really, I just don't really do them, to be honest with you, unless it's Cyrodiil ones and Imperial City. The one they had where you had to go in Imperial City to do the daily that everyone hated, all the PvE. That was the most fun I've had in Imperial City since I got Emperor in Imperial City.
That's great.
See, we were just smashing each other, and 30 people in one zone versus 30. I'm like, if we could get Imperial City like this, PvE, high stakes, PvP.
Yeah.
You just cannot beat the thrill of that, losing 10,000 Telbar.
Right. And that's one of the big things, which I'm always like, my favorite event, I make no small It's mid-year mayhem, like or
100%.
or white strakes mayhem now. They we can finally stop. I can stop ripping on them for beginning year, mid-year mayhem because that doesn't make any sense. Have it twice, but like way better name. Okay, it's fixed. I won't rip on the name anymore. So like, love that event. Absolutely my favorite. One, because it levels you up really quick, which is great because it takes absolutely insane amounts of time to just rank, and it's literally just time. But the big thing I really like is just that it fills so many servers. And yeah, the queue times can be rough because everybody's playing, but it reminds me of old Cyrodiil, where it's like, yeah, people always complain about Zergs. I get that, but that's why Battlegrounds is there. That's why, to an extent, Imperial City, because it's a smaller scale. Cyrodiil is like medieval warfare with magic, of course.
Yep.
And medieval warfare was what we call call now Zergs, but it's like it was numbers. Like it was numbers, and you hit the keep with everything you have. And the individual small teams that make a difference are the ones that swoop in as a bomber hits, but they hit a negate. Like that's how you still make your difference, but it's numbers. Numbers matter. And a lot of time you just have one team with numbers trucking the map, and then they go to bed, and then the other team trucks the map.
They gate you?
Yeah.
They gate you, and they just turtle up, wait for you to kind of get the things back. And that's what Cyrodiil is nowadays, and why I don't even step in there is red gates everybody, and then they wait for, them to get dethroned. Then they go to bed, and they're like, oh, I don't have all the buffs anymore, I'm leaving.
Yes.
When it used to be these huge fights with massive tactics, meaning we would go flag Farragale, and someone else would flag Brindle at the same time. Someone else would flag Arius, and we'd have these 3 small pocket, rogue stealth teams all doing tactics. And it's generals and commanders. It reminds me of being in the military somewhat, lesser extent. But
sure.
When you can see your influence on the campaign, and then it gets kind of political when you're going for emperorships and you have all these memories. Yeah, it does. But it's fantastic. It's Cyrodiil when it's working right, which hasn't happened in ever maybe hot minute. It's some of the most fun you'll ever have in a video game. If not, getting Emperor to me was the greatest multiplayer experience of any video game, and it's not even close.
I will agree with that.
It's not even close.
I still have the obnoxious clip of my guild when I got mine, because we had actually been fighting whoever the dude was. I'm obviously not going to just call him out. I don't know what his name was off the top of my head anyways, but he had been balls to the wall preventing me from getting it. He was an AD.
On the same faction?
AD. AD was messing us up. I'm always even. And he was defending to the death everything we tried to do. Yep. And I had spent the previous 12 hours doing my AP grind. And this dude is all over the place. And is me and one other dude. I might have told this story fully on the show before, but me and there was a person in second place. And we were pretty neck and neck. And he wasn't being a dick or anything on my team, but he's like, dude, this guy's everywhere. I was like, yeah, he's really a problem. He's like, so how hard are you going to be going at this? I was like, dude, I am not sleeping till I get this. And he's like, okay. Well, he's like, well, good luck. This is going to be interesting, because he's like, I ain't leaving without getting MP either. And I'm like, that's fair, man. I was like, when I get it, I'm going to enjoy it, but I am going to pass out at some point. I'm not just going to try to milk this till the end. I want to get. And he was just like, yeah. So we're going at it, and I've got my small group. Turns out this other dude, he's solo. He's actually Zerg surfing. So he's arriving at keeps in order for them to flip, and he gets the AP, and that's all he's doing. And he's not wasting time with siege and all that stuff. And I'm like, well, okay, I'm also trying to win here. But I get into first briefly, and I call an SOS to my guild, and I'm like, yo, I got first.
Yeah.
I was like, anybody happen to be around? And a couple people, and to your credit, in regards to having a military background, several people, I think he still listens to the show after all these years, but Marine Death specifically, he former military, I loved running with them because they were so fucking organized. It was uncanny what they could do with reading a map. And they were like, oh, you're in first? I was like, I am in first. It's real close, though. And we had about 80 people drop into the server. They actually had queue times trying to get in.
3-barred it, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we broke into over 3 full Zergs, because when you could used to have 24 people per a group instead of the 12 now.
Wow.
So we had 3 full and 1 half, and the half was the recon group that was going around, so they're checking where people are hitting or whatever. And we go in and we get down to the final keep, and the final keep was like an hour fight alone. Where
it's the best.
It's the greatest because it is chaos. The only problem is if you get DC'd because there's so much chaos and your system can't take it.
And also, like if someone comes snipes a keep behind you, but basically it's the tri-faction stack of the last keep.
Yes.
And it's always and same with the dethrone.
Yes.
It's the most riveting, exciting thing. Put a camp, 1 hour goes by like this.
Yes, it does. And we were like cutthroat in there. I had pulled ahead at this point, and we're smashing people, and we like pushed at the final flag thing. And like that, we've got the video clip of like, we grab the thing and it says, so-and-so's dethroned. It's me. And we're all in the guild chat thing. And it's just like incoherent screaming from like everybody. I got it. Right?
Yes.
And we're not even done celebrating. And I hear, here comes DC. Everybody fucking stop being happy and turn around. And this wall of DC like pours in because they're like, okay, well, we're going to mess these dudes up because they just had to do everything to take it from AD. And my buddy Annex, who always plays a bomber, jumps off the wall. He was up on the rampart by the front door, jumps off and gets me an 80k tick bomb because he's in our group and just wipes like 70 dudes. And I'm just like, this is the greatest multiplayer experience I've like ever had. Like he dies, everybody dies, and we're just like, dude, this is so much fun. And then being Emperor, it's basically just cheat mode for a while, which is
so fun.
So much fun. I've never done that much damage in my life because I play tank. So it's just like, dude, I'm just nuking people. But it's like that experience isn't really what you get
That's
anymore.
the Elder Scrolls PvP.
Yes, it is.
That's what's missing.
And that's the only time and it's not even the same, but you see shreds of it during the White Strikes Mayhem because you got everybody piled in. You kind of you kind of see it there. It's still technically there, but it's not what you get just unless there's an event anymore. That's just, it's not the same thing. And oh man, what I wouldn't give to have that shit back.
That's why I pretty much just do Battlegrounds, because if I go play solo in Cyrodiil, it's usually 1v10s. It's 10 people dogpiling me all the time. So I'm like, well, I'll just go do sweaty Battlegrounds because at least it can only be 1v8. And I love Battlegrounds. And to that point, I know I'm going on a tangent here, but I think the only thing that's missing from Battlegrounds, it's not the gameplay. It's not the excitement. It's not the joy of it. Even if the sweat lords are in there like me and a bunch of others.
For sure.
We'll just beat the crap out of each other for 8 hours and, say I'm better than you, whatever.
Yeah.
We just need incentives. You need transmutes. You need mounts. You need dies. You need titles. You need some reason. Because I always say this on stream. If you gave the top deathmatch Battleground player one a week, you got a mount. I don't care if it's a unicorn that farts out rainbows, the stupidest mount in the world. You know how many sweat lords would live in there?
Oh my God.
You would live. Because if you had a unicorn that farted rainbows, you would be flexing that in Ralka, Deshaun. Yeah. You would go to Kraghorn. You would be like, look at me. I'm God's gift to PvP.
Right. Look at my stupid mount and be amazed. Like that's
be amazed. You are all peasants.
You can't do this. Exactly.
I would do the exact same thing. I'm, no better than anyone else. That's all that's missing.
Yeah.
That's all that's missing from Battlegrounds. In Cyrodiil, I've heard that they're going to continue to work on it.
It's a little more complex, yeah.
They got a team on it, this and that. You know what? Fine. I just park it. I would just say, if you're going to do anything with Cyrodiil, and I don't think this is a PvP game anymore.
It's really not.
It's not. And maybe they just don't want it to be a thing anymore. Just here's your Battlegrounds. You kids go play in the Battlegrounds and kill each other.
And it's the reason that it's sad because of like literally what we just said. Like that is such a thing.
Best
Like
moment.
that will never leave me. I will never delete that video off my hard drive. And you can't even understand what anybody's saying. It's just screaming. Like it's.
But you know what it took to get there. And the homies had to help you. It's
right.
not a
Oh yeah, that
show.
wasn't me. Like I still say the fact that Sever was the reason I got Emp. I just sat there and farmed AP until they came and finished the job with me. Like that. And I've loved helping other people push Emp.
When they get it and you get that feeling with them too.
Yeah. And people have like literally like you can tell that it's like they're overwhelmed. They like don't even know what to do, whether they finally pushed and got it. And it was like, it was many episodes back, but like during a mid-year event, we were recording the show, and actually one of the other hosts, Promethean, was pushing during the event, and I refused to, like, I recorded the show while playing on a second screen because I didn't want to just, like, not run with him, and he crowned during the show. And it was just, like, I didn't get Emperor. I was in, like, 14th place on the leaderboard just from helping people. I didn't get, like, it doesn't matter to me, but just having him get that and be so excited was just like, oh, this is so cool, but it's not really the direction of the game, which
that's what it is.
It is. And it's like that's it's a smaller portion that I think care about that for sure. Otherwise they'd probably market it more. But PvE is definitely the focus of this game, but there was and is fun to be had with it. It's just I don't know how much we're ever going to get going toward it. It's not going to be... It was definitely a time and place thing, I think, for the most part, with PvP at its heyday in this game. It's a direction the team has shifted away from, even if it's still there.
And the thing about it is, you don't need to add more things. You just need to make Cyrodiil work. Give Battleground incentives, and they've done a good job trying to do the best for Imperial City. You don't need to create more content. Maybe a map here or there, maybe a map this and that, but you just need incentives to keep us in there. And we'll play for hours and hours and hours. And PvPers spend money. You start new characters.
Yep.
You don't want to grind Fighters Guild. You don't want to grind Sijic Order. You don't want to grind Undaunted. Here's a hundo. Here's a hundo. I'm ready to play my character. So it's frustrating because guys like you and me and other folks watching and listening have that camaraderie experience that they'll never forget. I mean, we camped AD in Imperial City sewers on my Stam Sork, my Toxic Tornado build. And
that just makes me happy to hear that you were camping AD.
We just camped them. And, everyone hated me and wanted to prevent me from Amp. And we got 50K straight out the gate, flipped the keeps. And we went from basically a dead server to all factions pop locked. And I got dethroned, I think, within an hour because everyone, they logged off of the main servers to come dethrone me. That's how much they hated me. Which was fine, but they couldn't prevent me getting Emperor. And that's what it's about. Fine, you don't like me, come dethrone me. And you have all these political intrigues, and it's just a freaking war out there.
Yeah.
It's so
sometimes
good.
A surprising amount with your own faction at times.
That's the number one war you have is people that are 1 and 2 and they're fighting over each other, and some of them are cheesing it. And anyways,
I was going to say the cheesing thing aside, because I've gotten in that with a couple people before, and it's that I'm not okay with, but I can't really give them too much crap because if it's in the game, I mean, I wish ZOS would fix a couple of the AP cheese things, but I mean, if it's there, I guess I can't hold it too much against people. It's I just wish it would get fixed.
Yeah,
that's all. But yeah, so I guess that was, I like how the events thing just went straight into PvP because
we're just like let's talk about.
Yeah, actually, you know what, PvP. But yeah, so no, I do agree with you though. The events definitely a good step. Even I wish there was almost like I mean, outside of just the one, it's so divisive in general, but it's like, again, so much is structured toward, there's so many PvE events. There's so few PvP events. Almost, I just wish, even if something was a PvP, having some type of PvP/PvE parallel, like do this or this, would, I think, help in a lot of cases.
Options.
Right, because like you can get, I mean, it started back a ways, but like when they had the you could buy the monster helms in the golden and stuff like that. It's like, okay, well, that's cool because that saves you the needing to run dungeons if you need a specific monster set or whatever, but you don't want to do that, but you can buy with AP. So, like, okay, problem solved. With those types of options, I think that does help when you have kind of like do this or this. And right now, there are some things like that, but like what you were saying, it's skewed very heavily to, I mean, even with something as simple as like the dungeon finder compared to the battleground finder. Like, it's not equal. Like there's a heavy incentive to do dungeons. There's a minimal incentive to get a little extra bonus for doing one battleground a day. So
yeah, and maybe it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. It's, you know, I don't necessarily have an answer to this. It's just kind of
just go play Call of Duty.
Right. Exactly. Get my Halo on. But with that being the situation, only other news thing related that I wanted to mention, which is a little weird because I will definitely fess up to foot in mouth since it seems like I am incorrect about this. In a release for everybody who's excited in the year 4045 where we get Elder Scrolls 6, it is supposedly listed as going to be an exclusive to Xbox and PC because it's Microsoft as well. It looks like, unless it's some type of timed thing, us on the PlayStation side of things will not be getting anything. It looks like it might be nailed down that going forward, they might be.
Yeah, but that's not a surprise, right? I mean, come on.
It's not.
They spent billions of dollars.
They
to
did
acquire
7.5.
these IPs.
And it's why I was saying I don't necessarily not understand it. The only situation I thought was I did assume going forward there's no reason to not have any new property or smaller property just be an Xbox exclusive. And when we say Xbox exclusive, just so I don't have to say every time PC as well, that's Xbox now. It's all one. Just, I get that. The three that I was a little on the fence about and why I had said I wouldn't be surprised if they stayed open, kind of like the Minecraft thing, where you can still play that on anything, even though it's a Microsoft property, was Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Doom. Those are their three biggest properties, and they're massive. And they've already been established everywhere. Granted, Bethesda's always been in a better situation with Microsoft than they have been with Sony for a variety of things. And I just was under the impression that maybe it would be a timed exclusive, maybe something, but I kind of was curious if they wouldn't want to limit their market just for the situation of they just had the Skyrim anniversary. Our last episode was all about it. It's hard to be able to tout those types of crazy numbers when you cut off one of the things. But like you just said, they did spend $7.5 billion to get this company.
Yep.
You probably want people playing there. You know what I mean? Like, so I do also get it. The game is still way off. We haven't even gotten past Starfield yet, but it did come out. It was news. I wanted to at least just mention it for everybody. It looks like, unless anything were to change, at least for the time being, find a different way to play it if you're a PlayStation player. My PC is calling when it comes to Elder Scrolls 6 whenever that happens. So, right. But the last part of the show, I kind of want to jump into, and we can do like Tales rolled into it as well. If you got anything you've been doing that's been fun other than grinding out everything under the sun, prepping for new builds and stuff. What have you been up to, buddy? It's been years since you've been on the show. A lot of things have changed. Want to just shout out a little of what you've done? How have you, what brought you back to ESO and everything like that?
Oh man, we're gonna go deep then. We're waiting till the very end part to go deep. Okay, so probably have to wind it back to why I started this in the first place. I just love sharing my enthusiasm, and I love learning and teaching. So to teach is to learn twice. Every good teacher will tell you that. So when I just started this out, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start a YouTube channel. I'm going to start a blog. It wasn't to earn an income. It wasn't any of that stuff. I just started as a hobby to share my creativity, right? So I can't sing, can't dance, can barely read, frankly. But that was kind of my genesis of starting that out. So I did that, and I went pretty hard for about 2 or 3 years and, got up there, 100,000 subs and all this stuff. And then it was about 2016, I went and visited Zos and all that. I had a son, and that really changed my priority. It kind of woke me up, realizing I was living the typical gamer life, which I was out of shape. Mentally, I wasn't doing good. Financially, basically, my life was a wreck. I had tunnel vision, and I was able to accomplish things in game, but my game house was cleaner than my real house. my character had gold gear, but I was a hot mess express. So I had accomplished these things in a video game, but what did it really matter? So I had my son, and it didn't happen overnight, but it kind of woke me up like, you know what? You got to be a man now. This isn't all about you. You got to grow up and take care of yourself. And so I spent a year doing a gamer to gym rat and getting in shape and stuff. But then again, I had that tunnel vision. That's my strength and my curse, where I can accomplish pretty much anything I set my mind to, but I sacrifice a lot in the process. And so over time, my relationship with gaming changed. It was no longer entertainment. I kind of didn't like it. Didn't matter if it was Elder Scrolls Online or whatever, but I kind of blamed Elder Scrolls Online for that loss of passion, that, the monetization of everything. And I didn't look at it from a higher level, which is, it is a business. This is not a soup kitchen.
Right.
Bethesda is for profit, as much profit as possible. And if you don't agree with those decisions, you're welcome to not play their game. And so, I was spoiled. I was entitled. I was all of these things. And then I got done with Gamer to Gym Rat. I'm like, what am I going to do with my life? I frankly couldn't handle balancing being a father, being healthy, and living a non-normal life. So I quit. I just went back to a normal life. And I got certified as a personal trainer, then became a health coach, worked for the federal government, and went back there, even worked in the hospital system for a while. And so I went back and worked a normal life, a normal job, a normal 9-to-5 type thing. It's just not for me. And so I was doing the thing and, just being successful, moving up, ranking up, just like I always do. It's never a problem. And, Grimforge Gaming reached out to me about coming on a podcast, ironically. I'm like, dude, I haven't played Elder Scrolls Online 2.5 years. I don't know anything about it. Like, I'm not relevant. I deleted my Twitter. It had 19,000 followers. Deleted it. Complete jackass move. Jackass. I'd be making tons of money off of it now. Anyways, so Roger that. I'm like, I asked my wife, I'm like, should I go on this podcast? She's like, well, what do you have to lose? You like talking to people. I'm like, all right, you want to talk about what's going on with me? Nothing, not a whole lot. Well, anyways, he left this message with other content creators that I inspired, and it just moved me to tears. It really did. I was like, sitting in your basement, isolated, doing your own thing, making videos. You're like, does anyone really give a shit? Honestly, does this really even matter? Is this all bullshit? Am I wasting my time? Am I wasting my life?
Right.
I thought I was. I thought I had to leave gaming to have a bigger, larger influence on the world. And that just moved me to tears, man. I'm like, you know what? Sorry to swear. Fuck it.
Yeah.
I'm going to fire up the stream. So I spent the entire weekend, I had a Monday off. So I spent the entire weekend digging out all my old equipment, rearranging my entire office. I'm like, I'm not going to tell anyone. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to stream on YouTube Live. And I did it. And all of these people came back. All of these people, like, where were you? What? I'm like, I don't have a Twitter. I don't have nothing. And
Yep.
you actually give a shit.
The odds that's just it. There's a few things that as you go through this, I would like just connecting to me, which is weird because we had talked about. I basically never have Wi-Fi on my phone. I do not have a desk job. I cannot check in on video content stuff throughout the day at all. And for whatever reason, one of my clients actually canceled. I went to the gym and I was chilling out afterwards, having a snack, and I'm on Wi-Fi at the gym. And I'm like, I'm going to go out to my car. I'll have something to eat. My Wi-Fi reaches out there. I'm just going to watch something on YouTube. And I'm still subbed to you from originally. And it popped up that you were live. And I was like, the fuck? So,
This is a hack.
so I fired it up, and same thing. So many people in chat that I'm like, oh my god, like I know so many of these people from way back when this was like all a thing, and watching you play, it was fun. You literally just seemed like you were having a ball with it, like you were just having fun with it, and I'm like, oh, I'm so, because I had no idea you were going live. That was just blind luck, and I was just like, oh, this is just super cool, man. I was like, this is a blast from the past. So I just had you up on the screen. I'm like eating a sandwich or something like that after the gym. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll just have a snack and just watch you run around in PvP and try to figure out what the hell's going on in ESO now.
That was it.
Yeah.
And so I did that. And again, I was just like, man, let me just see if I can do a little bit more. Let's see if I can balance this, maybe do a little bit part-time, maybe, integrate, see what's going on. So fast forward, and I'm like, you know what? This is going really well. Let's just do a 24-hour live stream for the Fisher House, which opened up in Omaha, Nebraska, where I'm from. It basically is a Ronald McDonald House for service members' families. So active duty veterans can stay there if their service members overnight care and they need a place to stay. They live out of town. So feel strongly about that. I'm a veteran myself. My mom used to take me to appointments when I was all jacked up after the service, and she had no place to stay and go. And so it kind of, resonated with me. Anyways, it boomed. We raised over $10,000 for the Fisher House, was #1 streaming fundraiser for them. I stayed up for basically about 36 to about 40 hours because I started the 24-hour live stream at noon when I normally get up at 5, which was a complete jackass move. But at the end of that, I just cried. I'm like, dude, if I could just wing it, if I just winged it and all these people gave a shit. I look at Cypher and Fangrush and some of these other guys, we were peers. King Richard, I see how well they're doing. And no bit of jealousy. They kept their head on straight and kept moving forward. What could I do? And so I woke up the next day or whatever. I got up and I said to my wife, I go, let me give one more chance. One more chance. I'm not going to go to my funeral. Look at, man, fuck Deltia. He could have just crushed it. He could have just absolutely destroyed it. But he took the safe route. He didn't have his head on straight. He didn't keep moving forward. He didn't try to progress and learn and improve. And all the things I've learned, like when I was doing the bodybuilding stuff, all of those things, the consistency, the routine, the structure, the modeling. What if I use those skills and tools from health coaching, personal training, and applied it to content creation? Had my head on straight, balanced everything. Go, let me give it one more chance. I can always come back, crawling back to a job. I got a master's degree, blah, blah, blah. She's like, you know what? Go for it. I'm like, all right, this is the plan. This is what we're going to do. All systems go. And so I quit my job. I didn't quit it like the next day, professionally moved on and gave my notice. And I think we started back in about April or end of March is when I started full time. And so I said, last time I did this hardcore, I gave myself a year and I bet my wife I would make more money than her. And at that end of the year, I could do it full time permanently if that were the case. And she agreed. So similarly, I'm like, let me just give it a year and see how far I can go. And trying to improve, because I topped out very quickly. And then I never really looked to improve editing, thumbnails, analytics. I never even checked my Google Analytics. Mm-hmm. I basically winged it. No bullshit, to 100,000 subs. And I'm not saying I'm gifted. I don't know how we got there. It was just through consistency and giving some information. I'd watch my old videos. And I'm like, this is atrocious. You're not even editing out the breasts. You don't have, the thumbnails garbage. People watched.
Yep.
And so same thing with the stream. I got really popular on stream. I was so stupid. I left Twitch as a partner. I was one of the first partners. I left. I had to get re-partnered on Twitch. Who does that? So anyways, just being moved by those other people. I'm like, man, a big picture wise, I was like, I thought I had to leave to really make a change in the world. I don't know how that's the way to say it, but I was doing it the whole time. And people had sent me these messages and left these comments on the video and just tears rolling down my face, man. Just like so moved. I'm like, you know what? It's not about me this time. It's about a bunch of other people. They love the enthusiasm. They love the just who I am. And growing up as a child, I had ADHD and from rural Nebraska. They had no fucking clue what to do with me.
Right.
I was a mess. And joined the military because it was legitimately go to war, go to jail type thing.
Yep.
And very thankful for my service. That didn't go so smooth. And I just had a whole lot of problems. It wasn't until I was about 35 years into my life that I was not completely jacked up, where I was comfortable being me, not anxious, just proud of who I am and what I'm about.
Yep.
So that enthusiasm, that excitement, those things that were curses when I was growing up actually became my best gifts. That's what people love seeing, the enthusiasm. That's what my son has. He has that same gift that my mother gave me. And I'm like, let's hone that gift. All the other stuff I can figure out, but let's hone the gift of being thankful for your life and expressing that through video games and using the medium of video games to socially interact, because that's what it's about. We can complain about Elder Scrolls Online, it's not balanced, Cyrodiil's a mess, whatever.
Sure.
But in all actuality, that's just surface layer stuff. The deeper aspect of games, it connects us with people from all over the world. Wales, United Kingdoms, Australia, all these. I've sent shirts to all over the world. People that are quote unquote fans. I'm like, you can't be a fan of me. I'm just a person. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm just so thankful to get another opportunity. And that's kind of what happened. I was just living the normal life. And at the end of the day, that's just not me. I love the dynamic nature of this. There's no ceiling. I love the creative expression of writing a script, visualizing what the video is going to look like, preparing for a live stream and giving people excitement, hope, and energy and being happy to be alive. Like, that is my daily routine. I'm so thankful for that, because who gets to say that? I'm legitimately in my basement with my dogs, the lights on, and I'm playing a video game, just living the dream.
Right.
I'm not going to take that for granted ever again.
Yeah.
Ever.
And that's just it. It's like, to your, to something that you've kind of started to, it seems like you've started to realize about yourself is, even related to like, oh, I just had this energy and stuff like that. And it was kind of like you needed to kind of direct it. But the thing that's, at least from the perspective of, like I said, I it's kind of weird that like when I was first introduced to you, it was your guide video things, because I was just starting, because I don't play MMOs. I play ESO, but I played ESO.
Shooters.
Yeah. I was a shooter person. I used to be a huge sports game person until they stopped being about sports and became like pack opening games, which I was like, all right, cool. I remember when I could play football on my Madden, but like that's, a thing of the past. But it's like shooters, and like my like nerdy thing, which I've talked about, is was always like, oh yeah, my Elder Scrolls. Like that's I'm gonna get my geek on. I'm gonna play some Elder Scrolls. And then when they had the MMO one, I was like, this MMO thing doesn't really make any sense to me, but whatever. I'll just play through the stories maybe. Like I'll do that. And the more I played it, the more I branched out into everything about the game, where now it's like the running joke is like I'm almost out of achievements to unlock in the game because I am crazy. And I just like to do everything. And when I was starting though, and I started to first get into that, I needed to figure out even how to play or how to do stuff. And I was telling you before we started, went back with the original thing of like, I insisted on beating VMA on my tank. Yeah. It was your video I just studied where you were showing this is where this spawns and this is this mechanic. And I went through it little by little. And the reason I would pick yours is, one, to the teacher aspect, you do a very good job of explaining what you're trying to explain, like, which sounds super straightforward.
Right.
But
right.
I actually try to, when people ask me for help, I'm not unaware of my talents and also things that I'm not good at. Yeah, right. Explaining what I do is not a fucking strong point of mine. Because okay. I don't think about what I do a lot of the time. Like when I'm playing in game, it's just, I do the same thing until it becomes second nature. And then I don't know how to like rewind back.
You don't know how to explain it.
Right.
You don't have the beginner mentality.
Correct. And that's why specifically with this episode, and people had asked about like, oh, could you maybe do, how do you tackle in-game content? How do you get started? Stuff like that. I've been compiling the messages from everybody who's sent in the show. I do read all this stuff so that I know, and it's like sometimes it might take me a while to get there, but I hope that I can tackle everything that I intend to in future shows. This was one that I'm like, I can't do this. I do not know how to do this because I don't know how to explain what the hell I do. And even starting over on PC, I'm not going to tell people, oh, what did you do? Oh, the Halloween event dropped, and I farmed dolmens until I was CP 160. Right. Like, that's not a fun way to play, but I've also played this game for thousands of hours already. I'm not looking for that experience on PC. I was trying to become relevant to jump into games with people on PC. It was a different experience. You were very good, and I find still are, because I used your guide to get it after we did our blind run for Red Petal Bastion. Yours was the trifecta video that I watched through. We had no idea about something as simple as the goat mechanic, where you can headbutt the portals. We're just like, blow everything up, like whatever, just kill it. And then I'm like, oh, we can actually headbutt the portals. And everybody's like, we can do what? I was like, we can headbutt the portals. I just saw it in Deltia's video. I didn't even know this was a thing. But it's like, when I'm looking for a description, that's something you are good at. You can, without sounding super brown nosy, but it's like, I've used your videos for stuff. So it's kind of like, this is just, and it was funny because back before me on this show and listening to you and Agelos and Thais and Ark back in the day, it was funny because you were doing the stuff that I was trying to get into doing. That trench where you were just in Dragonstar for an incredibly long period of time, just getting back. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, okay, so I'm going to tackle that shit later because that sounds awful right now. And that was just it. When I eventually got to that point and surpassed it, that was what I based it on. It was like, okay. And it was always, I liked you had a grounding, but you also had an enthusiasm to it. And before you left, I'm sure some of that enthusiasm obviously had kind of faded. And that was, it definitely was kind of like, oh, okay, so you must be burning out. And then when you came back for that stream and stuff, it was basically like, oh, okay, so he's super excited to play this again. And it showed, because it's hard to fake enthusiasm.
You can't fake it. Not for long.
Not for long. You'll eventually get found out that you're full of shit. Like, that's the thing. And it's just fascinating to think that it's like, it took a little while, but it seems like you've kind of realized where your strengths are and how to fine tune them into what you're doing now, which I'm super pleased that when you came back, it didn't kind of have a crap experience and you're like, actually maybe screw this type of thing. It's been a good experience because people missed that. Like, that's the type of enthusiasm that it was like drew people to your channel originally and stuff like that. So I'm glad you came back for that reason. And you bring actually a pretty unique perspective because you were Endgame, you were PvP, you were gone for a while. Now you're back again doing that type of stuff, but from a different perspective. You haven't been here the whole time, just like, oh yeah, I've just consistently been nuking everything for 7 years. Like, that's not your story, which is cool because it makes you unique in the community itself.
Yeah, and what I've learned about the enthusiasm is I know my strengths and weaknesses now. I'm not going to win a spelling bee. I'm not a mathematician. Okay, these things are not in the cards for me. But my God, do I have enthusiasm in spades. My mother gave it to me. And so what I've learned when I was offline, not playing games, and slowly reintegrated myself with the relationship of gaming, it's entertainment.
Yes.
This is not escapism. Yeah. I do not use games as escapism. If I don't drink alcohol anymore. I've dealt with these demons before. If I'm having a problem, we're going to deal with it. We're not going to escape, no matter how hard it is. If I need professional help, no problem. Sure. We're going to get professional help. We're going to deal with this. I was in the eye of the hurricane for many years. In the eye of the hurricane, everything is calm and peaceful. Just outside the eye of the hurricane, this could be addiction, video games, the metaphor for a larger topic, but sure. It was a wreck. It was a wreck. I had that moment in the mirror. You're a wreck only because of the decisions that you have made. You are not a victim. You can turn this around. You can turn it around right now. And so what I learned through health coaching, personal training, and other things is doing all of the goofy stuff that I took for granted in my life. Taking my son to parks, going to museums, reading books, learning how to be, it sounds weird, learning how to be comfortable with just being myself and being still. And that's what recharges my battery today. And so what I've learned is not to burn out is I don't play the game a lot, actually. My friends play Elder Scrolls Online way more than I do. I just play for streaming or collecting content and footage. The vast majority of my time is prepping for the stream, editing videos, networking, building relationships, and so on. And then when the weekend hits, it's off the gas. So we're going to go do things not on our phone, not on the monitor, not on a game. So when I come back to the game, it's entertainment. I'm so excited to play, just like you would at a job. You work a 9 to 5, you boom, evening hits, you're ready to play, so excited. So that's how I kind of recharge that battery and do things offline to keep the enthusiasm going so it doesn't end up in the same cycle for me. Elder Scrolls Online, will I play it for eternity? I don't know. But right now it holds my attention. It's not a perfect game, but I love the people and the community in it. And it has gotten a lot better. So as long as I keep that enthusiasm and try different games on the side and stuff, the problem is gaming is so intensive at this time. If you're making videos, live streaming, networking, running events, doing all these things, you only have so many hours in the day. And you can't play 5 different games a week. I can't.
Yeah, I hear that.
And that right? Yeah, how are you going to do Halo and do ESO? You're just too much time.
Yeah. It's just, it is. Time is limited. Even if this is like your job type of thing, it's still, there's literally only so many hours in a week. And it's like, from even the like business perspective, if all you ever do is play it, well, then what did you make? Like, where's the job part still? Like, you still make content, you know what I mean? It's like, there's more than just...
You don't play content, you make content.
Right. So it's like, there's more to it than just that. And it's, I always joke that it's like, I wish I had more time or didn't like to sleep or something, because I absolutely do. And it's like, you know, I'm not going to just be like, oh honey, I'm not going to hang out with you anymore, and I never talk to my wife because I'm too busy grinding for Godslayer or something like that. It's like, it's that balance that can be tough to find, but when you do, you feel it because it works better. And sometimes it takes work to continue to stay balanced. It doesn't just like, oh, I'm balanced, it's totally fine, I can just do whatever I want again. It's like, no, if you don't watch it, you'll start tipping off balance again. And it's like, sometimes you just got to remind yourself where to stay focused, so that you mentioned it as tunnel vision. I always joke that I'm actually almost like, I don't know if there's like a specific term you would use for it, but it's like, I almost joke that I'm like the opposite of ADD, where like I cannot multitask worth shit. I have to pick a target and I have to, that's my thing. But the problem is, if I don't have anybody snap me out of it every now and then, I will never look up. So I'm stuck on that one thing. I know, I'm always amazed at people who can do a bunch of different things. And I always actually credit my wife to being the one that reminds me that it's like, okay, you can do more than one thing at a time. Like, okay, you don't have to just do that. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. It's not just this one thing that exists. There's this and there's these things, and, you know, have other hobbies, do whatever, you know, just communicate with other people in real life, whatever the situation may be.
Communicate with other people in real life. That's a really important one. Not to be completely socially isolated. That got me in trouble a while back.
Yeah, and it will. And I think it's unfortunately lingered for a lot of people with the whole last couple of years specifically.
Yeah, pandemic and all that,
That was a situation that honestly was just something people weren't experienced with for so long, because that was a weird situation. It is not even matter. It's been a weird couple of years, and that has taken its toll on a lot of people. And that's not the end of the world, but it can take some work to get yourself back into a healthier mindset type of deal. And that's just it. It's like, it's, you know, there isn't just one answer to fix everybody either. It's learning what your strengths and weaknesses are and working with them. And
100%.
Yeah. Yep. And it makes all the difference. And I'm like glad to hear that yours seem to have balanced out to the place that you're at now, where it's just like not miserable playing this. Like, oh, it's a fun thing that I do. And what's more is able to make a living off it too, which is like, oh man, that's
it's
awesome. Like that's so cool.
That's what I say to myself is like, gratitude is one of those emotions, and people will do gratitude journals if they're going through something, and it sounds like a really silly thing. But if you actually write down different things you're thankful for every day, your life will radically change. Because me, business owner, and the neurotic nature that I am, it's always the next target. It's always the next goal. It's always the next thing. But if you take time to recognize you're 37 years old, you pissed this away one time, if not two already, and you got another opportunity to sit in your basement and play video games, interact with people from all over the world. If you say that out loud, you don't got to be mad about nothing.
Right.
Nothing ain't that serious.
Yeah. Well, that took like a surprisingly deep turn that I didn't expect.
Damn, man.
But I'm glad it did.
Kleenexes.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So yeah. Honestly though, I'm really glad we got to fill that in for anybody who was curious on the time since you've last joined the show and stuff like that. I think that was important. And, like I said, I'm glad that things have taken the direction they have, because given all that hardship, it's good when you overcome that and it becomes what it is in a good way, as opposed to something that it's like, oh, that went bad and this is where it started. It was like, this was bad and we turned it into this. So very, very cool stuff. We pretty much covered what I wanted to cover since having you back. Anything you've done that you wanted to just mention that you've been doing in-game or anything like that before we close up shop and you can tell people where to find you and everything?
Yeah, I mean, the majority of my time in game has been just collecting gear. I just love Battlegrounds, man. Just the sweatier the better. We just have fun. And
okay, quick question for you. Do you like the fact that they brought back the game mode thing and the queue system, the way it's set up?
They've brought it back. I've done a gazillion of them. I haven't got one. I haven't got one capture the relic. I haven't got one. So
okay,
whatever. I do like capture the relic and I love Chaos Ball, but no one ever plays it. So it's like, whatever, let's just duke it out.
Yep.
So
okay. I was curious on that because not last week, the week before, we had the Red Diamond Courier join us, and they're like PvP oriented for everything. And they were going in and actually Dogged went through and did the math behind the odds that you would get something that is not TDM.
Really?
Yes, because basically you need to have each person in the queue, and then it's going to go with the default amount of people. Like one person will queue into this, and it's got a queue for that, and then you have all of these game modes, and I think it was like 1/3 of 1% chance to get
it's
something other than like a team deathmatch, because the pool becomes so infinitesimally small that, okay, well, the odds that out of these 12 people, or 12, 12 people, I was like, 16 people in Battleground? It's 12. It's 3 teams of 4. It's 12 people. The fact that most of them are going to just queue for team deathmatch, so you're in that pool. Well, if you queue for the anything pool, well, it's anything or team deathmatch is the key to this equation.
You're getting team deathmatch, right?
You're going to be in that other queue for a month before you get 11 other people who also queued just for that, because it's also, is it the group version or is it the single version? And it's like you just fill team deathmatch is so fast. So the initial, hey, cool, it's back, to your point, yeah, in theory, like, unless you and 11 buddies queue for it at the same time,
queue sync it.
I think that shit still needs some work. And actually, I was gonna say, Pain in the Axe actually mentioned it. Haven't gotten one objective game since the update, and he beat. So there you go. I was gonna say, and to anybody who doesn't know Pain in the Axe, he's always in PvP,
top level.
Yeah, another like PvP focus, and it's same thing. It's you're not getting it. So in theory that's great, but unfortunately in practice it doesn't work still. Like
and other than that, so I'll do that, but usually my stream is breaking up to do, like, if I get burnt out on PV, I go do PvP, and For some reason, PvE is like exhausting to me. But if I go into a battleground and it's super sweaty, I can talk the whole time. We're just having a good time. It's relaxing. It's bizarre. But what's been fun recently is to carry people through content that they normally wouldn't be able to clear.
That's surprisingly fun. I totally
love it.
It's just,
I love it. Getting someone like the Dread Seller helm, the Magma Incarnate, getting someone the DSA lead for Death Dealer's Fate. It kind of goes back to us getting Emperor and so forth, you know? Like when you get it, you want to give someone else a taste of what that's like and experience what they have.
Yep.
So if I'm getting frustrated or burnt out, I don't feel like doing anything, I just always go back to chat, who needs some help doing this, so you can get that hype and enthusiasm. That's been fun to do recently.
Yeah. I would definitely agree with that. I obviously, I love unlocking the stuff for myself just to collect it and everything like that. Usually it's achievement related and whatnot, but it's like, oh, I got this skin, I got this. I love not having the pressure of needing to do it myself, because then it's just like, well, I can help you do it. Like, and then it's like, well, I'm not worried so much about me screwing it up, because according to you, you were never going to get this anyways. I can't wait for you to get this. So that's what makes it's like, oh yeah, no, you're totally going to get this thing, whatever that thing is. I love the idea of like somebody else being able to get something they didn't think was possible. And it's like, if I'm ever able to help with that, it's like, oh, hell yeah, I'm on board. Like that's awesome. Like I'm happy to be able to lend a hand when I can. Organizing a trial to get somebody a skin and stuff is a little more involved than like a 4-player thing.
That's too much.
Yeah, I've been part of them and I've always loved them, but it's like I always joke that it's like, dude, organization ain't my strong point either when it comes to like herding cats and there's cats falling out windows. I'm like, please, just, oh my God, just like get in the thing briefly. That's all we got to do. But yeah, very cool. As for me, I was going to say I didn't really have a ton. I've been just exploring a ton of the new stuff. And since, the last show, I've mentioned that I've been close to Immortal Redeemer, haven't gotten it. We've gotten close a bunch of times. I finished Cloud Rest, the last couple of Stray achievements of One Core No More, and whatever, you grab all those Welkanar lights on the thing at the same time, which is pretty sweet because now I have 100% in Somerset, so I got nothing left in there. I'm probably going to take a long break before I do anything Vet Cloud Rest related again, because that place is the bane of my existence. But to your point, one day I would like to go back in and help other people do stuff in there. Just not yet.
You need a break.
Oh my God, that place is torture. So many mechanics. But yeah, where can everybody find you, Deltia?
Oh, so the website, deltiasgaming.com, twitch.tv/deltiasgaming, and then Twitter, since I deleted mine.
Yeah, what's your new one?
real smart, by the way, kids. deltiasgaming1. Yeah. So
nailed it.
Real good. Surprisingly, Twitter wouldn't give me my account back. Shocked.
Weird. I think it took me 2 years to get my actual tag on Twitch. Nobody had it. And it was deemed offensive. And I'm like, what part of Lotus of Doom is offensive? So I had Lotus OD for like 2 years, 3 years, something like that. And then arbitrarily, one of my friends tried to change their name, and they did it just for shits and giggles. And they're like, dude, try to change your name right now. It was going to let me take your name. I'm like, what? So I tried it, and it switched over. No explanation from Twitch. I was like, okay, I don't understand it, but whatever. I was happy about it. Maybe in another year, try to see if we can get your tag back on Twitter.
Maybe I need to know an employee or something.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Find somebody who's verified or something.
More than blue check mark. I'm talking about blue check mark.
Exactly. But as for me, if you don't already know, Lotus of Doom is where we're now hosting the show, which is my own personal Twitch. And the giveaway that I'm running for anybody on the live stream, you can see now, it's the limited edition Skyrim Metal Dragonstone tablet that they had. As a thank you for everybody who has donated to Extra Life and helped us clear our $2,000 goal.
Nice.
Yeah, no, everybody came in droves for that, including Rich Lambert, who literally ran dungeons with us for like 4 hours, 3 hours, something like that. Dude streams more than I do. But Anybody, it is still open till December 1st. If you would like to donate anything to the charity, it's just Extra Life. You can look up Lotus of Doom, or you can look up Tales of Tamriel. It should show up either way. Every dollar donated, I put one of your names on this nightmarish spreadsheet I have, and I'm going to draw a winner and ship this out to you as of December 1st. So there's still time to enter. Several of you have done very generous donations to get involved, so thank you very much for that as well, as now we're well over $2,000. And as for the rest of the stuff, you can follow everything we do over at dungeoncrawlernetwork.com. There you can find links to all our social media, including Twitch, YouTube, which we're working on getting that last thing fixed for you all. We haven't forgotten you. Twitter and Discord. Be sure to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Dungeon Crawler Network. If you want to help support the show, and consider leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes so people know that we are a real podcast, that we say real words, and sometimes they matter. Thank you, Deltia, for joining us. I really appreciate it. It was a great show.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, and it was
time coming back.
Yeah, it was a great reminiscing. So, as for everybody in chat, thank you all, and we will see you again on next time's Tales of Tamriel. Bye, everybody.
When Akatosh slew Lorcan, he ripped his heart right out. He hurled it across Tamriel, and the heart was heard to shout, red diamond, the heart and soul of men. Red diamond, protect us till the end. The laughing heart sprayed blood afar, a gout on Cyrodiil fell, and like a dart shot to its mark down in an alien well. Magicka fused the Lorcan blood to crystal red and strong. Then wild elves cut and polished it down to chimel at a ball. Red diamond, the heart and soul of men. Red diamond, protect us till the end. When elves lost Nirn to men, Akatosh gave the stone to Saint Alesh in token of her right to sit the throne. Red diamond, the heart and soul of men. Red diamond, protect us till the end. Red diamond, protect us till the end.